They've had coaches said, look, I mean, this is mandatory, but even in the non-mandatory situations, they've had tremendous attendance here. It looks like, and like, look, you've been around enough training camps and mini camps and everything to know whether or not guys are Cadillacing it or they're playing hard or whatever the case may be. Now, I'm not going to sit here and suggest to you like guys are doing their work as if it was game day, but everyone's, going full speed. Like, nobody's taking it easy, which is a good thing.
I hope it's a priority again,
Yes.
not necessarily here at minicamp, but let's take if I'm Eberflus and I think he learned his lesson from last year. I was awfully surprised after hearing about the hits principle. Last year was our first year as home of the Bears, so we got more access to training camp than we had in the past. We broadcast from here more. So usually during training camp, we would be downtown when we weren't home of the Bears because we couldn't broadcast during our show hours from here. Last year was the first time that we could broadcast from here, so we watched more practice with our eyes. Year one, we heard all about this hits principle. The H stands for hustle. And we always heard that if you loafed, it was a shot against you. And last year when we showed up, I'm like, this doesn't look anything like this hits principle that we heard about. There was a lot of people not participating. There were a lot of people not hustling. And in my opinion, they didn't seem ready to play in the opener. And it showed on the field. We kept saying this when we would come out here that, boy, it wasn't physical.
No, it wasn't.
And I know that that's the style these days. I wasn't asking for a 1987 practice. But I was asking for
A little bit of contact.
yeah, like maybe a Dick Duran style practice or Lovie Smith style practice.
You've got to callous yourself heading into the season.
And I didn't see for a coach who had said that our number one thing is hits and hustle being number one. What is the I, intensity?
I think so. Or interception after last year. No, it's intensity.
And T is the ball. It is, which is always funny. It always makes us laugh. And S is, what is S again? Tyler, what's S? H is hustle, I is intensity, T is the ball, S is
Sacrifice?
Smart.
No.
Smart. Yeah.
Sauce.
Maybe it was soft after last year. Because they weren't ready to play
No.
football.
Can we
And
say
I was
it?
evident.
Wait. It was evident.
Can we say it? If nobody can remember the acronym, it's not a great acronym.
Yeah.
No, and
We do this every time.
I don't even think acronyms really resonate with people, to be honest with you.
Well, in any time, right, and it's very high schooly and collegiate. And if any time you have an acronym where something starts with the, it's a bad acronym, isn't it?
Yes.
That's a good point. I will say this, though. Hustle to the point where that defense, when the ball's on the ground, like when a ball is batted down or dropped and the ball hits the ground, the defensive guys pick it up and run it towards the end zone as if it was a turnover.
Well, that's what Lovie used to do. I used to, when Lovie first took over and I was on the beat.
But these guys are doing it, but, I mean, it's a change from last year. They're doing it consistently even in minicamp.
And that's what, when Lovie's first year came, and I covered the Duran Bears, the Wanstead Bears before that, I sort of giggled when Lovie would say, because I thought this was high schooly, I thought this was collegiate, that Lovie said, every ball that hits the ground, you must scoop up.
Yes.
You must run it back for a touchdown. And it worked because Lovie Smith's defense was always close to the top in takeaways.
Yes.
Always. And Urlacher and Peanut and those guys always told us there was a method to the madness.
Of course.
And then we saw last year again, going back to what we were just talking about, something was missing in last year's camp where there wasn't this immediacy, there wasn't this urgency. And I hope when they hit camp this year with hopes of competing and contending, like, I don't give a crap. Again, I think the biggest oversell in the NFL these days is September games don't matter. That's a complete BS. they're worth every bit as the ones in December. And I understand that there's more of a push in December and January for positioning. But you must, if you start 0-4, you're killing yourself.
Well, you also expose yourself to injury because the speed of the game when it's real versus coasting through training camp, like you're just asking for muscle pulls and all kinds of other stuff. So my hope is that they actually treat camp and preseason games with a little bit more immediacy and a little bit more importance than they have in the past. But they are, when the ball's on the ground, this defense picks it up and goes the other way, even if it is an obvious ball dropped or a ball, whatever the case may be, even when it's not a true turnover, they pick it up and take it back.
312-332-3776. David on the north side. You're on ESPN 1000. What's up, David?
Hey, guys. I used to be a sports producer years ago for Channel 7, so I used to go to the Bears training camps. And when I was doing that, there was a lot of leaders on that team. Who are the leaders on this team?
First of all, David, how was Gene Greco to work with?
I didn't work with Jim Greco, but I was Tim Weigel's producer.
Oh, very nice.
And my first two seasons, I believe it was Platteville, was 1984 and 1985. And my first day was trying to do a story with Walter Payton, the greatest practical joker that ever was. So I lived a good sports life back in the day, so it was a lot of fun.
The leaders on this team right now, I would say, there's a lot of leadership coming from the secondary.
Yes.
Brisker is looks like one of the leaders. I would say Jalen Johnson is a leader. I think you get leadership in different ways. I think Montez Sweat is going to be a leader and has been a leader since he's come over. I think, who else would you consider a leader on this team? I think DJ Moore is a leader by example.
By example, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't think the team is void of leadership. I don't. I think there's a lot of leadership in here. And I've said I think you're going to see it blossom also in training camp practices. I can't say it enough. I think training camp's going to be a lot of fun if you get an opportunity to watch these guys practice this year, because there's a lot of competition inside the team with the offense and the defense, and I think it's great. I think it's the best thing that could have ever happened to Caleb Williams is he's going to face a defense every day that is very good at taking the ball away and will tell you when you're not good and will get in your face.
Tyreek Stevenson, again, that's my pick to really break out. I love the kid. I loved the kid in the flashes that he showed last year. A lot of chirping, that whole secondary. A lot of chirping, that whole defense, a lot of chirping. I want to see more from Walker this year. All he does is talk crap the whole practice. He is out halfway on the field. Again, more sacks.
Yeah,
but he really swears at them. He swears at that offense the entire practice. I think even at one point, Eberflus may have told him to kind of calm down.
That's what Rich used to do to us.
But Richard Dent would put up 18 sacks a year.
That was my point. But Rich was a Hall of Famer, So, look, it's great. You're enthusiastic. You want to bust some balls. That's all good. You want to be a leader yourself vocally. We just need to see 3.5 sacks. Probably not enough production, for them, especially with what they need. They need someone on the other side of Montez Sweat to get to quarterbacks. I believe, as we were talking with Stacey Dales yesterday, this defensive secondary, I think 8 of the 22 interceptions came from their linebackers. They did a really nice job taking the ball away. But, that secondary played excellent football, especially the last half of the season. And the pass rush ranked 30th or 31st or even 32nd at the end of the day in terms of sacks. So somebody's got to step up and bring some pressure. Well, the other thing I was noting, too, remember we were asking what they were going to do at the 3 technique. Seen a lot of Dexter. At the 3 technique.
I was talking to another reporter today, and he told me his breakout is and that's Yurko's guy, is Dexter.
Yeah. So
Jervon Dexter.
Didn't know how they were going to use him, but it looks like the plan is for him to take over that spot. And if you know anything about Matt Eberflus's defense and people who run a similar style, the 3 technique is uber important.
Yeah, so I pulled the question that we were debating with Stacey Dales yesterday. There's a funny rejoin, too, that we could play about that from Cap and Jay Hood from earlier today. But I pulled the question, that we debated. I'm in the minority right now in the way I would vote. We've had over 1,000 votes. It's brought to you by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealers. Which unit is the Bears' best? It's A, defensive backs, or B, wide receivers. So, again, the defensive backs, you have your two starters as far as your corners are Stevenson and Jalen Johnson. And then Gordon is your nickel. And then your safeties, you signed Byard and you have Brisker. And then you're deep behind them, too. You have some, you signed Owens. And then who's the kid from Minnesota? Terrell Smith is really good. And Elijah Hicks is another backup safety who showed last year, I think, playing for Eddie Jackson, that he's pretty decent as far as depth is concerned back there.
I'm still going to ride with the receivers in this web poll question.
And there are three really good ones. I mean, you have DJ Moore, who is a Pro Bowl type wide receiver who could be all pro with remember, he has never played with a great quarterback. And then you have Keenan Allen, who is a Hall of Fame type wide receiver.
Who I think is the most accomplished of any of the guys at either position. Like Byard's had a couple of, second team All-Pro, or maybe was All-Pro one year as well. But I think Keenan Allen's had the most accomplished career of anybody in the secondary or the receiving crew.
And then you have Roma Dunze, who is a lot of people think is could be the bargain of the draft.
Yeah,
so you have three.
This is a good conversation to have, because you're talking about two really good strengths. And when we had this, I said this to Cap and Jay Hood today. Look, they had 22 interceptions last year, which is fabulous. 8 of them came from the linebacking core. They had some help from T.J. Edwards, and they had some up. Tremaine Edmonds, I think, ended up having 4 picks. So I'm not talking down the secondary. I love the secondary. I thought Stevenson in training camp last year was somebody that was going to shine very quickly. But I just think I think the top 3 receivers are pretty damn impressive. So
I still vote defensive backs because of the depth. I feel Jalen Johnson, out of all of them, could be the best player of wide receivers and defensive backs. He was the guy who went to the Pro Bowl. DJ didn't. If you rank the wide receivers and where DJ is amongst wide receivers, and you rank the corners and where Jalen is amongst corners, I think Jalen's higher amongst corners. I think Tyreek Stevenson's a good comp to Roma Dunze.
Yeah, it's a good conversation to have.
And I think Brisker's just a hell of a playmaker. Brisker and Gordon together are just sort of your core of your team that were his first 2 draft picks.
I think Gordon's the better player at this point, but listen, I mean, you're talking about 2 very deep and talented units, and it's why this team is expected to be significantly better than we've seen recently.
So people are going with you, 63.4% going wide receivers. 36.6% are going with defensive backs. You can vote online, but again, like you said, it's a this is one of those Bears polls that is a good poll. This is something that you can brag about. This is something, it's a good argument to have.
Absolutely.
Instead of one of those, hey, which unit concerns you most?
Exactly. Yes. I don't think there's a wrong answer in this web poll question.
No. Josh in Batavia, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Josh?
Hey, gentlemen. So to your point about in training camp, picking up the ball and running, and I go to a lot of training camps too, and I've seen that. I don't think it's high schoolish. I want to bring back Bears-Packers game where there was a live ball on the field.
Lance Briggs, right?
Yep, Lance Briggs looked at it. And I can't remember the receivers. Probably, doesn't matter.
Was it Randall Cobb?
It was Randall Cobb.
It was Cobb. Yes, it was Cobb picked it up, and that completely changed the balls on the field. So you do it in practice. You do practice as reps, rep it, and then you do it when it's just time to play. So just want to throw that out there. That resonated with me because I couldn't believe why we were doing that. Why wouldn't just pick a ball and run it like we did in training camp? So
I will say this, though. That was the ultimate exception to the rule, because as you were talking earlier, Lovey had those guys dialed.
Wasn't Lovey then, though?
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Lance should know, and Lance, it's a question that I could ask Lance when we have him on a pregame show, or maybe Pat can ask him on one of the pods. But Lance should know, as like a lot of people believe he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He was an all-time great Bear. But, hey, it was the year that Trestman's the coach.
Yeah.
Mel Tucker is the defensive coordinator.
Right.
Is there a coincidence that now all of a sudden you have a new set of eyes and practice habits, and now all of a sudden you're not picking the ball up in the most important game of the year?
Yeah.
Urlacher's not there anymore either.
That's right.
As your leader. And so a lot of those habits sort of died.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some people that will watch practice and say, why the hell? That was a ball that was, dropped by the tight end. Why in the world is a safety picking it up and running it in? But it's about building habits.
Yep. Lawrence on the west side. You're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Lawrence?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're good.
So I actually agree with Silvy. I think that Bears secondary is probably better than the wide receiver core. I mean, they both could be 1A, 1B. But, I mean, I think Jalen just shuts down that one side of the field. So now you're forced to pass around Gordon and Stevenson, which to me, I think they're going to level up. I think Javon's going to be better than what people expect. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's so solid. And if they ever get a pass rush, like think about if they get like a baseball term, a replacement level pass rush. They've had a pass rush towards the bottom the last couple of years with this secondary. If they ever get a middle of the pack pass rush, how good they could be. And man, if they ever could get a good pass rush to match with those, I think they could do some damage.
I think Jalen Johnson's been a fabulous player even before the interceptions came. Like, he had one career interception leading into this year, and it was something that we would talk with Carmen Yurko about quite frequently. You do need to be an upper echelon corner. You do have to have the takeaways, to get the, to get the notoriety. But he's always been – those things come and go. Like, they come in bunches. You may go through the first 5 games of this regular season this year, and Jalen Johnson may not have an interception, and he may be the highest-rated cornerback in the National Football League. I think that they're ball hawks. They jump routes. They do a ton of stuff exceptionally well. I hope they have 22 interceptions next year, but it's just one of the ways to evaluate a team or a defense to see how good they are. They could end up being better technically and have fewer interceptions this year.
You mentioned the pass rush, Sylvie. The one thing, it wasn't as much today, but yesterday I thought Austin Booker had a really good day. Now, he's raw, not necessarily saying that he will be the absolute solution that you're looking for, but it did make me think back to 2006. Remember, Mark Anderson was a rookie, and they didn't ask him to do anything but pass rush, and he had a very successful rookie season.
What did he have, 12 that year?
sacks that year, yeah. And he was.
Can you give me 6 from Booker this year?
Exactly.
I'll take 6.
Like, he could be.
And then a veteran gives me 6.
In a pass rush situation.
And then Montez gives me 12, and I get 24 from the two end positions.
I have.
Can I get that?
Or if
that would be great.
Javon Dexter is a difference maker,
And then Dexter, and then some of the interior guys give me some.
I have no idea how to evaluate a guy like Booker until I see him in pads and training camp.
He had 3 or 4 plays yesterday where he was making some stuff happen. You're right.
I know, but you can't. Your tackle can't send him over to your guard or vice versa, and you can't chip.
Are you buying Booker or Taylor more so?
Well, right now I would buy Taylor more than Booker because
punter. We made him choose the punter
because
that's a no-brainer.
Because the punter's performance has very little to do with contact. So
take that, Carm.
Wait till I see Booker in pads, and I may change my mind.
When Silvy proposed the best unit web poll last week when we were talking about it, I said you have to leave the specialists off because Torrey Taylor will just completely swing it in that direction. So you have to make it a fair fight.
Well, listen, let's not overlook how good Cairo Santos has been.
What I'm saying.
Well, he hit a post again. He did. Didn't he hit the?
He did. He did.
I did.
He missed a couple today.
Whenever it's from
Caleb
50
threw an
plus,
interception.
Whenever it's from 50 plus with Cairo, I'm a little
practice.
nervous.
I'm fine.